Very curious, Mark Carney. How many new immigrants to Canada live in your neighborhood? I see you sometimes come into Parliament with your 10 blacked out cars and 25 security members, and you're inviting another 1.5 million people into the country, many from incredibly dangerous third world countries that have the exact opposite values of Canadian values. But how many new immigrants, out of curiosity, that you insist are making our country so much better exactly do you live nearby? Because I've lived here for 36 years and the rate of transformation I've seen is truly shocking. I now have a next door neighbor. I live a couple blocks away from Parliament. I've never seen the amount of crack smoking in the streets that I see now. But I have a new immigrant who just moved in as a next door neighbor, and I'm now dealing with, at 3 a.m. in the morning, a baseball bat being swung against my door. I actually had to call the police a couple of days ago. He's been quiet since then. It may well be illegal. I know the Canadian government doesn't get rid of the 3 million people here who have work permits expired, who are now threatening violence if the Canadian government tries to do anything about it. Sounds like a great plan, bringing them all in on so-called temporary visas. But I'm just curious, how many of them do you live around? How many new immigrants are in Mark Carney's neighborhood? Or better yet, any of these liberal elites, any of these Anita Anand or Mark Miller or Dominic LeBlanc or Sean Fraser? Because it seems to me they implement a hell of a lot of policies that they then virtue signal that if you criticize these in any way, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you're every single name in the book. But it seems as though they continually implement policies that don't affect them whatsoever. Because I'd be willing to bet my last dollar, whether it's Justin Trudeau on his fucking yacht with Katy Perry or making out with a man Diplo, Mark Carney with his tens of millions of dollars he's made since being elected Prime Minister through Brookfield Asset Management. It's pretty funny how the Canadian economy has lost $63 billion. GDP dropped 2 quarters in a row, including a 1.6% drop. We're officially in a recession. Yet Mark Carney's Brookfield Asset Management, the stock is up over 45% since he was elected. It almost seems as though Carney is looking more so out for Brookfield Asset Management than he is for the Canadian people. But these liberals will virtue signal about how you're such a terrible person if you criticize the immigration policy, the unprecedented immigration policy that now has 26.4% of all Canadians as first-generation Canadians, people coming from Afghanistan, people coming from areas of the world with values wildly disparate and funny, and perhaps the funniest of all, the most anti-gay, anti-free speech. Go try flying your Gays for Gaza sign in Afghanistan, where we've invited hundreds of thousands of them into Canada over the past 10 years. And let me know how that goes for you. Countries where if a man is caught sleeping with another man, he's thrown off a building. Countries where if you blaspheme against Allah, you are sentenced to life in prison, and in many cases much worse than this. Countries where there is no such thing as free speech, freedom of expression. But the ones who are called hateful are the ones who point out that we're inviting millions of people a year into Canada who have wildly different values, but the liberal elites don't live in neighborhoods where it affects them at all. I'm going to take a wild stab and say that all these liberal MPs who just voted yay to Bill C-3, which would give citizenship to another 100,000 people who were not even born here, don't have to do a language test, don't have to do anything, just handing out Canadian citizenship like Pez. There's never been a country that has done what Canada has done in the past 11 years since Justin Trudeau was elected. They don't live in neighborhoods that are affected by this. They're all living in multi-million-dollar neighborhoods. But the Canadians who do live in neighborhoods where you have baseball bats swung against your door, you actually see the massive rise in violent crime since 2015. Ottawa just announced if they're going to jig the numbers anywhere, you know they're going to jig the numbers in Ottawa. Even in Ottawa, they admitted that violent crime is up 63% in the past decade. That's a massive number. 63% in the past decade in Ottawa. But they don't live in neighborhoods where you see that violent crime. We now see, I live a couple blocks away from Parliament, the open crack smoking all over the place. Incredibly expensive. To live in a tiny bachelor is $2,000 a month in a crummy neighborhood. And we know that immigration is the number one reason that we're seeing the major economic and cultural issues that we're seeing. Yet these liberals virtue signal and they yell at you, they go, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you're a hateful bigot. They ban you from platforms. I had 30,000 followers on TikTok in Canada, banned because I was a hateful bigot who criticized Canada's immigration system. These people are not, I can guarantee you, Mark Carney and they are not affected whatsoever. They live in neighborhoods that don't have any immigrants who just got off the boat from Afghanistan, who believe in Sharia law. They don't have to deal with it. So from their penthouse, from their white picket fence, they can preach to the rest of us, if you criticize our immigration policy, you're a racist, you're a bigot. They don't have to deal with a baseball bat being swung against their door at 3 a.m. and having to call the police. It's disgusting. They're the type of people who, as long as it doesn't personally affect them, they don't give a shit. When are Canadians going to get it through their heads? These people hate you. They hate you. They do not give a shit. You think Mark Carney gives a shit that violent crime rates are up 63% in the past decade? The man has spent the entirety of his adult life outside of Canada. He hasn't even lived in this country. You're telling me you think that Mark Carney, that dead-eyed bug creep, sent his kid to Tavistock? Look up Tavistock, where Mark Carney sent his kid, and tell me this guy's not a total creep. You think that these people care about you? And then the gall that they have to be able to get up there and say that you're a hater because you point out the fact how destructive, and you can cite statistic after statistic after statistic, they'll never buy it. Just look around you. I've lived in Canada for 36 years. The degradation, I never saw this much crack smoking. I never saw this much violence. Your eyes don't lie. They will tell you not to believe your lying eyes, but it has never been more apparent. This country is falling apart, and it's falling apart due to liberal policies. They've invited at least 8 million people into the country in the past decade, and in all likelihood, the number is much higher than that. And it's disgusting. They've ballooned the deficit to over $50 billion. The deficit is going to this centralized government BS where they invite people in, which they know sends rental price up, sends housing markets up. And if you say anything to criticize you, they say, you're a white nationalist. You know what? Fuck you. These people disgust me. We need an election. We need an election yesterday. We need to get rid of these creeps. They are cretins. Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, they are creeps. They need to be gone yesterday. Please like, share, subscribe, join, become a member. Grab some gear, donate. Really appreciate the support. I have a cool new sweater up. Really appreciate everybody who supports. We have to get the message out to as many people as we can and get an election as soon as possible in Canada.